A lot of Sonic the Hedgehog fans seem to hold the Archie comic book series in high regard. I don't, and here's why. So last episode I reviewed a bad comic about Sonic and Sally getting together. Now I'm going to review a bad comic about Sonic and Sally breaking up. Oh yes, you know the one. If there is any issue in this series that has gone down in comic book history as one of the most infamous things ever committed to the page, it's this one. I already showed you the Sally slap in the previous episode, so I won't try to treat it as a big reveal. Here it is. Look at it. Gaze upon its glory. Is this not the most deliciously over-the-top breakup you've ever seen? After this issue was published, the fandom absolutely exploded and declared it the worst issue ever, and put its writer Carl Bollers right on the naughty list. To this day, it's still seen as one of the worst in the series' 250-plus issue run, and considering some of the other moments Archie Sonic has been through, that's really saying something. Is it really that bad, though? Or did the fans just declare it such as a knee-jerk reaction to seeing the Sonic and Sally ship getting sunk in the most in-your-face way imaginable? Well, since I'm reviewing this as part of a series called Why Archie Sonic Sucks, you already know the answer to that. But before we dig into this issue, it's time for some backstory. After getting launched into space by the Quantum Dial and spending several weeks sorting out alien affairs, Sonic touched back down on Mobius to find that an entire year had passed and a lot had changed. Knothole Village was now Knothole City, Antoine had become Mr. Serious Business, Jeffrey St. John and Hershey the Cat had gotten married, and the war on Eggman had escalated quite a bit. After an emotional reunion with Sally, Sonic rushed off to stop Eggman's latest threat. Meanwhile, Sally was forced to sit on the sidelines and watch as Sonic was kicked around and badly injured by Eggman's newest crony. In the end, Eggman was defeated and the day was saved, but Sonic was left with a broken arm and Sally's nerves were pretty much shot by the experience. And now, finally, our feature presentation. Sonic pays a visit to Dr. Quack's office to get himself checked out, and finds out that the translator chip the aliens gave him so that he could communicate with them is fused with his nervous system. Sonic momentarily freaks out, but Quack tells him it's harmless and gives him a clean bill of health. Then we get some backstory about Quack's missing eye. As he leaves the office, Sonic is greeted by Sally and his relatives and informed of a celebration in his honor later that evening. Then he and Sally start making out in front of both their families. Don't you just love these subtle romantic moments? As they leave for home, they all get press ganged by the local paparazzi. Apparently Knothole is now so advanced they even have pushy tabloid reporters. Sonic returns home, sleeps in his own bed for the first time in probably forever, and freaks out again a few hours later when he wakes up to find that his non-anthropomorphic dog is talking to him. He rushes downstairs to tell his folks, but he quickly realizes it's just his little head chip at work, which leads to an info dump about Sonic's year in space and the reason why his father wasn't de-roboticized by the BEM. And no, I'm not going to explain that because it's a long story and you can just look it up. Sonic leaves to meet up with Tails, to whom he reveals that his long-lost parents are alive on the other side of the galaxy and gives him a wrist-mounted projector that contains a message from said parents. Are you starting to see the problem with this issue? It's just one load of backstory exposition after the other. I mean, this is all juicy info, but clumping it together like this is just tiring, especially if you don't know all this going in, so you can't skim over it. After that dramatic reveal, Sonic and Tails attend the celebration, which also happens to be a Mina Mongoose concert, where they run into some of their friends, and King Max steps up on stage to announce that he and Queen Alicia are going on a tour of the planet, and Sally will be acting ruler in his absence. On the next page, Mina reveals her backstory and shows off her new boyfriend. Max and Alicia exposit about Sally's issues and her son Elias's new life, and the pacing here is just awful. It's like reading an encyclopedia, something with solid bricks of info with absolutely no filler to even out the pacing. Now, backstory and continuity building are good things, but it's possible to have too much of it, and that's what's going on here. Bollers is trying to pack too much into too few pages, and it's exhausting. Upon turning around, Sonic is greeted by yet another crowd of people, and we get yet another round of backstory recital about Angel Island and Tails' history with Fiona. Not only does this add to the tedium, it's irrelevant. There's no reason why we need to have this explained to us right now. I swear, it's like Bollers is just scribbling down every little factoid he could think of. Rotor comes up, gleefully swinging a device the size of Sonic's head and activates it, which covers the sky in an enormous image of Sonic and Sally making out. Instead of being weirded out by it and having a talk with Rotor about what the term invasion of privacy means, Sonic calls it genius. The crowd goes wild for it too, implying that Rotor is not alone in his desire to see these two lock lips. Jeff and Hershey are very appreciative of it too, but they have to duck out early so they can go on a classified mission, meaning their honeymoon. In a painfully brief scene, Bunny explains why Antoine has changed so much and why she broke up with him. Apparently the combat he endured during Sonic's year in space hardened him into an angsty stoic type, and their relationship just couldn't withstand the change. If there's one bit of info in this issue I'd really like to see expanded on, it's this. But since Bollers was intent on stuffing as much content in these pages as he could, it gets relegated to only 3 vaguely worded panels. What a shame. As Bunny walks away, Sally asks Sonic for a moment and explains that the duties of running Knothole City are too much for her to take on alone, so she wants Sonic to roll by her side until her parents get back. Sonic rightfully points out that he's needed on the battlefield, he is the hero of Mobius after all, but she immediately gets snippy with him. But then she begins tearfully begging him to stay with her, and Sonic has to visibly force himself to say no. So Sally morphs into a banshee, accuses Sonic of being selfish, and lays an earth-shattering slap across his cheek. Sonic angrily demands to know what's selfish about anything he's done, and Sally claims that prioritizing Eggman over her is wrong because it's breaking her heart, which is ironically pretty selfish of her. Oh sure, it'd be understandable that she'd be upset with Sonic for wanting to jump back into the fray after being lost for a year and almost killed mere hours after his return, but that doesn't excuse her behavior here. When Sonic doesn't respond, she runs away, declaring that Eggman can have him. Oh, and did I mention that this is all taking place on a stage, in front of the entire village? Now you know why this scene is so infamous. Not only is it ludicrously over the top, it's downright cruel and has zero build-up leading to it. Furthermore, it's completely out of character for Sally. She's supposed to be the reasonable one, the leader, the team diplomat. That's why she's the acting ruler rather than her brother Elias. This kind of insane outburst would look wrong coming from any of Sonic's friends, but it's even more jarring coming from her. Especially since she's been quite in character in every scene prior to this one, so why the sudden shift? Because Bowlers didn't like the Sonic and Sally pairing and wanted to break it up, and if he had to derail Sally's character and bring the plot to a screeching halt to do it, then so be it. This is what happens when a writer lets his own petty desires override his professionalism. Putting your agenda ahead of the need to tell a good story is never ever a good idea, and it's not as if Bowlers isn't capable of writing good stories, he simply chose not to because he had a ship to sink. So yeah, the rumors you've heard about this issue, all the angry rants posted on message boards about it, they're all true. It really is an awful comic. But not just because of the slap, it's also a cramped, badly paced dumping ground for all the backstory and canon welding that wasn't covered in the previous 4 issues. This may not be the worst issue of Archie Sonic, but it definitely ranks up there.
Getting back together, like ever.